Hey everyone, how you doing today? Topic number 3 is an important one because it's really about, hey, Michael, Greg, I'm a full-time employee raising a family. I'm interested in investing. For me, it is going to be a side hustle. So I wanted to ask Greg, what would he do? Let's assume, you're both employed. Let's assume there's no risk of that. Let's assume you have an emergency fund. Let's assume you're getting ready and you'd like to make some investments going forward, Greg. What would your advice be? Where would you tell them to look? If you were coaching someone or giving some advice on that, what would you be talking about today?
Become a government contractor because they're handing out money left over right here.
Go start a business
with the new infrastructure and everything that's going on. So actually that would be one, start a business. So that's what I did. I was employed full time and always had a side business. So if you have a skill, it could be anything. So when I was in my career, I was managing restaurants and I was doing construction on the side. So I was building fences for people. I was building decks. I was finishing rooms over garages, doing small projects I could do myself.
Sure.
And instead of playing golf on the weekend, sitting in front of the TV, I was out working. When I got home from work, I had a cabinet shop in my garage. I was making cabinets, making furniture, not nice furniture. I was making like lawn furniture, benches and things like that.
Sure.
So, I was, again, going back to like the last episode when I'm talking about these Goldman Sachs interns, I'd go to work 8 to 10 hours a day. Then I would come home and work all night till 10, 11 o'clock at night on my side business.
Yeah.
Now I was young, I didn't have kids, and I was in a position to be able to do that. And, and I did that for as long as I needed to, because it's what I knew. I didn't have other education from a financial standpoint. What I knew was start a business, work hard, and, reinvest. So that's kind of how I did it. So that'd be one, just start a side business. It can be anything in this day and age. There's so many things you can do, from service, type things. You can do Uber, you can do Lyft, you can do, home healthcare, like visiting, seniors and taking care of people. You can do dog walking, you can do errands, run errands for people, groceries. There's just all kinds of things. Then you get into the world of tech space. You can be a virtual assistant. You can be a graphic, do some graphic work for people. You can do YouTube thumbnails, for people, and make, for people like you that
I don't create any of my thumbnails, folks.
Right.
I pay somebody.
Things like that. You could be a copywriter. You could be a virtual assistant, administrative assistant. So there's a lot of things you can do on the side, to generate. Some people generate 100,000 a year doing those side hustle things, building websites, running Facebook ads, or doing social media management for people, and then build that into a full-time gig.
Sure.
And then you can get into the real estate thing and stuff like that, where, the numbers get a lot bigger for a lot less time. But right now the markets are inflated, cap rates are compressed. So then the question is, well, what do you do? What do you get into? So again, what I'll go back to is, from a cash flow standpoint of real estate, you got to be able to service the debt. And if you're raising capital, you got to be able to pay your investors. So you can pay as much as you want, as long as it does those things. And you can't necessarily always bank on it on appreciation, because I think real estate values are going to pull back at some point. They always do. They might go back up again. We don't know how long that'll take. Again, it's been 04, 05 was the peak of our market in most areas across the country. And then, values dipped. We shot back up. 2009, everything was cut slam in half, if not more. And a lot of markets are just now getting back to where they were 04, 05 levels at the peak the first time. So it took 10, 15 years for that cycle. So if this market gets, paired again, it could take 10, 15 years to come back. So you got to look at cash flow. Can I service the debt? Whether you're buying a business, whether you're buying real estate, whatever it is, you got to be able to service the debt. You got to be able to return equity if you're raising the capital.
Yeah. For me, the answer is single family homes. I think there's ever more like this. I like looking at what the rich people are doing, not what they're saying. And there's more and more, evidence that the rich, and this isn't even companies, are moving into the single family rental. Even Lennar, right? Lennar's a home builder. Lennar is dropping $4 billion, creating a real estate portfolio of Lennar homes as rentals. These are all signals.
Single family.
Yeah. Single family, like build to rent, right? I think there's more and more truth. Again, one of the outcomes of the Great Recession was proof that Wall Street could create a portfolio of single family homes and manage them profitably. Now that that's been proven over and over by dozens of firms, I think you're going to see more and more folks. I think we really could get to a point where single family rentals become kind of their own asset. So folks, if the rich are doing that, go get your little piece. I talk about getting to 4, right? Go find a way, but you've got to service the debt, never buy an alligator, never create an alligator. Frankly, if you could take advantage of unnaturally low rates, and yes, rates are up, but they are still unnaturally low because of what the Fed is doing. I think you're going to be very thankful, right? You go get a 30-year mortgage at 4%, and 2 years from now it's 6.5. You're in good shape, right? Because the beauty of single family homes is the debt doesn't reset. That's the problem with commercial. I see commercial having a huge problem 2 to 4 years from now as their ARMs and IO periods change. Don't get caught there, right? People buying stuff with cap rates of 4% are going to get hurt. The question is when. But if you can get a single family home that cash flows in a market where population is moving to, it's going to, could prices come down a little bit? Yes. But again, remember, you're not buying for appreciation. You're buying for long-term hold, cash flow, all of that. I would tell people to go learn their market. That would be what I'd be telling people.
Yeah, that's what killed the real estate market residential in 0809 were largely interest-only loans, LIBOR loans, negative amortized loans.
Yeah, neg am. Yep.
Yep. That's what really tanked the market because rates went up. And again,
Yeah.
what are we seeing now? Rates are going up. So there are a lot of people that are buying, large multifamily properties on interest-only terms,
Yeah.
3, 5, 7 years.
Yeah.
And the question is, when you get to the back end of that, if the funding is not available and you can't refinance, then what happens? So we'll just have to wait and see how things play out, where rates are, 3, 4, 5 years from now. But that's the big issue. But yeah, single family rentals, period. So rentals are in high demand. It's really interesting. There's a certain segment of the population that's more renter oriented now that would rather just rent their residence. The ultra wealthy, a lot of times you see them, in these big houses and mansions, a lot of times they're just renting, so there's a market there where, people will, or funds will buy mansions, I'm talking 15, 20, $50 million mansions, and they just rent them, islands, things like that. Wow. So there is a niche, and there's a market at the very, very high end for the ultra high net worth that want to just rent wherever they're doing business, wherever they're at, so they can stay mobile and global. They don't have to worry about the mind, space that rentals take up, and some like to own multiple houses around the world. So you've got both ends of that. But what's really interesting, like my mom, I just told the story about her selling her house a couple of weeks ago. She's moving into an apartment. We had that whole conversation. I'm like, Mom, at your stage, she could buy something small, or smaller, in a community that's maintenance free. But I'm like, it doesn't make sense to own. Why pay taxes, insurance, maintenance, run the risk of whatever happens, to the property, whether it's a flood or a fire or storm damage that you have to be responsible for. Just rent, be nimble. You don't have to worry about it. You can travel the world and don't have to worry about it, So she's, so that's what she's doing. And then you have the millennials that are jumping out, and they are driving the home buying market right now because a lot of them are having kids. They want the backyard. They need the garage. Makes sense, so it's all life stage. But I think these for rent communities and subdivisions like Lennar and some of these other imitation homes, places like that, I think they're going to become more and more popular, more and more a wave of the future. And it could be even cars now are going subscription model. So if you think the Netflix of housing, it kind of seems like all inclusive, even to the point to where what's getting even more popular in multifamily is turnkey furnished units.
Yeah, I saw that.
Things like that. So yeah.
Yeah, again, folks, I think you're going to have an opportunity. I think, I think the signals are clear. For me, this crisis has done a couple of things. Space is good, right? You talk about the backyard, right? Go kick the kids outside while you're on your Zoom calls, right? Go have a spot for the dog, the swing set, whatever it is. What's bad? Elevators, right? You don't want to be in, plus if the services are all shut down in the city. So yeah, I think single family homes are the place to be, right? Especially if you could take advantage of the low debt that's unnaturally low, right? Without the Fed, rates would not be 3%. So go get it.
But the problem is for the nicer, higher end single, and I say, upper middle class to upper middle class, if that's what you want to own and rent, there's not going to be a cash flow. So even at the low rates now, because of the prices, there's not going to be any cash flow. You got to put 20% down. Especially with investor loans, you might be able to get some creative ways where you can get some seller concessions to use for your down payment. If you're an agent, you can use a commission where you can inflate your commission, get that back, and use that for a down payment. So there's a lot of ways that you still got to pay taxes on it because it's a commission, but you can use it for your down payment. But there's a lot of different ways that you can, be creative about getting into them. But the problem is, even with long-term financing, it's not necessarily going to be a cash flow play. It's going to be more of a long-term play where the renters are going to pay down the asset.
Yeah.
You'll own it free and clear after a certain period of time. If there is excess cash flow, you can put it towards that while you're working your job and pay down the mortgage even faster and accelerate that principal pay down. So that's the tricky part of it is, okay, that's the way to go. Single families, duplexes, fourplexes, small multifamily, those are even better because a lot of times the cash flow is even better. So the key is to start with, okay, how much money do I need? Like you did, you probably did it by accident, but start out with what do I need to replace my income at work? And then, how many rentals do I need to accumulate in order for that to happen, and start there so that you can replace your income. Then that gives you options, and then you can kind of roll from there. But it's hard to find cash flow right now.
Oh, it's hard. Yeah. I tell people all the time, 98% of the deals out there are average and those suck. So you got to work hard to get good and great deals. Buy below the median, never buy an alligator. Negative cash flow is bad. Don't bet on appreciation, especially now. Rates go up, prices could get soft. But again, if you can lock in 30-year debt, it doesn't matter, right? Folks, that's what the beauty about residential, fourplexes and below. Unlike apartments, right? You can be in technical default in an apartment if rates go up, prices come down, NOI is affected. Bad things could happen. So again, residential is the place to be. That's where I tell them to look. So Greg, this has been a fun 3 conversations, buddy. Thank you very much.
Yeah, enjoyed it.
All right.